to really build this into something that's sustainable and where I didn't feel like I was having to launch all the time. I needed to build what I call a growth flywheel. Maybe we need to go into some Reddit forums or some Facebook groups. What do they feel like their biggest pain point is? If you put an offer out into the marketplace and then just make some adjustments there, you're going to get some really good feedback. One of the best ways to launch an offer that's priced really anything like $200 or more is a live webinar.
Give us a little background on what you do, what your business looks like right now, and just a little bit of your coming of age story.
So I have actually been teaching online since 2005, way back in the dark ages at the university level. I'm still a graduate professor, so I teach in an MBA program full time, but I also have my online businesses. So I kind of got into this because I've always wanted to have my own business, but I just love teaching. And that's what I do in my personal brand. So I have my personal brand, which is what I'm here representing today, but I also have a B2C brand called Hobby School, where we do fun online learning virtual summits throughout the year. So I have kind of a knowledge of mix of both B2B and B2C.
That is amazing. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the B2B side of things. So you transitioned from, you're still teaching at a college level. And so how did that start to come more online into building your own business, your own brand with that?
Yeah, so I did that for many, many years. I did like a college dean role, an associate vice chancellor of academic affair role, and I just got burned out like a lot of us do. And I said, you know what? I've always wanted to start my own business. And this was around 2018 or whatever. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to quit that job, just move back into teaching only and give this a go and see where it takes me. And that's how I got into all of this. It's been a windy road, as most of us can relate to. It's not always been easy. I've definitely hit some bumps here and there, but that's how I got to where I am today.
Cool. So you even have this right there on your homepage, and it's something that I am really intrigued by. You talk about growth flywheels when we're selling digital products. So just to give people context, I'm sure that a lot of these concepts and principles will work across industries and across different things, but your specialty really is selling digital products, helping digital creators to make money more consistently. So tell me what that is. Let's break it down on a basic level. What is a growth flywheel and how is it kind of different from a sales funnel, and what's your approach?
So I specialize in digital products. Like that's my passion, whether it's low cost digital products, online courses, memberships. I have a lot of people who have coaching programs and they might have some digital products into that. And you can sell those via funnels, right? Typical funnel, you have a free gift where they go into maybe a tripwire. You may have some order bumps and then upsells, or maybe you're doing it through a webinar type funnel, whether that's a live funnel or an evergreen. So you can definitely sell these, digital products, these offers, these programs through funnels. And that's a really good way to sell them. But what I realized when I was building these businesses, and especially my B2C brand, because it's getting big, it's getting to be a pretty big brand and business there, what I realized was having those funnels, while they're good and they definitely work, to really build this into something that's sustainable and where I didn't feel like I was having to launch all the time, I needed to build what I call a growth flywheel. And it has a lot of different elements of it, and I'll kind of walk you through that. So you have the attract stage, which we're all familiar with. So this might be what you're doing on social media or your podcast or your YouTube or Pinterest or whatever. It's kind of like how people find you. And then you're going to kind of invite them into your world. Your main goal there is to get them on your email list. That's what we need to do. That's where the majority of my money comes from, for sure. So you can get them on your email list. And from there, I like to basically invite them to start working with me as soon as possible. And generally that's through a tripwire type funnel. So because we know, based on the marketing research, we know that people who buy something from you, even if it's something small, they're going to be much more likely to buy from you in the future. So that's kind of that. They're getting to know you. They're just getting to introduce you. So you kind of take them through that. And then part of that is kind of your nurture. Now, in that particular part of the growth flywheel, for me, that's my weekly newsletters, or it might be my podcast where I'm showing up on a regular basis, just nurturing them. And then you have what I call the retain part of this. So this will be getting them to basically engage with you and buy from you on a regular basis. This might be some type of recurring type membership or a coaching program where you might have multiple payments there, or circling them back to maybe your Shopify store where you might have some digital products. So it's really kind of that retain where you're not having to launch all the time, but you're getting that recurring revenue. And that's very, very important. And then the other part of that is basically where you get people to recommend you. And this is something we've really focused on in our hobby school brand. And it might be affiliates or customers recommending you. So we have a lot of people who are coming into our world through all of the events that we're doing, and they're recommending us to their friends. We're getting testimonials. We use those testimonials. We put them on our sales page. We put them on anything where, people might be interested in hearing out what it's like to work with us. So that's kind of that holistic growth flywheel system. So you can see that funnels are a part of it, but it's really just one kind of small piece of that holistic system there.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, the customer experience has to be so much more than just the sales funnel, right? It's almost like that's the close, that's kind of the sales pitch, but you want to make sure that you're nurturing them from every single angle. So I love that. And I love the term too. It really is more cyclical than like the funnel model. I mean, it's again, they both fit in there. Can you walk us through? So if somebody is maybe a new digital product creator or they're trying to really expand and they're trying to have more of that success. I know it can feel really daunting when we just heard all of those pieces that you want to have in place. Where do you recommend people spend some time, or maybe like the order of operations here in what they should be focusing on first and then adding on as they go?
Yeah, I'm really good at this because I coach people on this all the time. We have a lot of people in our hobby school audience that are just starting out and they kind of want to just kind of dip their toes and start turning a hobby into a business. So what I always tell people is you got to start building your audience. And my recommended way to do that is to do that on your own platform, meaning your own email list. A lot of times people will go out and they're like, I'm going to start building an Instagram channel or a TikTok channel or some type of social media platform. And it can work. I've definitely seen people do that, but you really need to get them on your own email list. And generally, what I recommend for a lot of digital product creators in our space is to start by doing that by using other people's audiences. So this might be like a freebie swap with one of your peers. It might be participating in like a bundle where a bunch of like digital product creators kind of get together and they share that bundle and people can go sign up for those free resources and everybody benefits from that. But one of my favorite ways is speaking at a summit. And that's one of the reasons why we set up Hobby School the way we did, because we wanted to support those creators. So we have speakers that come in and share their expertise with our audience, and they get a ton of leads by doing that. So that's generally the first thing I recommend. Once you have kind of that free gift set up, my next step is to set up that tripwire funnel that we've talked about. So it's really just a bunch of low cost digital products, generally is what I recommend. Some of it depends on your business model, but generally low cost digital products where you have this free gift. Somebody signs up for it. On the next page, you have this wait before you go. I have this special offer that I think you'll be interested in. It might be something that's like $27, $37 or whatever. They click to check out. Maybe on the checkout page, you might have a $7 or $9 order bump. They input their name, their credit card information, and then on the next page, you might even have one or two more upsells in there. So it's just kind of a way for people to get a taste of what it's like to learn from you. And what I love about these, I have people who have gone through that in my world, and they're like, I just loved your teaching style, right? And that they went on to buy other things. Once you started kind of building that email list, the next thing you want to make sure that you're doing, because you don't want to ignore these people, is you want to send out that weekly newsletter. So those are kind of the first few steps that I recommend, kind of the basics that I recommend that everybody gets in place.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you can't put enough emphasis on audience building, and a lot of people will go just kind of create things or start launching offers, and they don't have anybody to sell them to. So then they think the offer's awful when really it's just you're not in front of anybody and nobody even knows you exist or that this offer exists. So I'm kind of curious your take on this, where you are audience building. At what point do you even build that first digital product? Like, I know if you're coming from a certain expertise, sometimes it's really, really simple to create something because you have this very simple solution. But I have found that a lot of times where if you do create in that vacuum and you don't actually know what people are out there looking for, you're not getting comments from social media posts or YouTube subscribers, wherever you're showing up, those summits and places like that. You can create that thing that actually nobody wants because you're not having those conversations. So, how do you recommend people balancing that out with how do I know when it's time to create that first offer? How do I use audience feedback, or do I just kind of plant my flag and hope for the best and just gear the marketing around what the audience is saying?
This might be a little controversial, but I think it's a combination of both. I think we've got to understand our audience, understand our market. Maybe we need to go into some Reddit forums or some Facebook groups. I mean, those are a gold mine of information. If you can go in there and really kind of source that information, you're going to learn so much about people. I was in this Facebook group. I had a lot of my ideal customers in, and I was looking through it, and I don't go into Facebook groups that much anymore. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe these people are like speaking what's on my sales page. So it was kind of a nice thing. I was like, okay, I know it's on the right track is what I should say. So I think it's a combination of going out and doing the market research, getting the feedback if you can. So when somebody joins your email list, I always like people to do two things. Number one, click on the thing I promised. And number two, to respond back and tell me basically what they're struggling with. And I don't word it that way, but I really just want to hear it in their own words. What do they feel like their biggest pain point is? And that gives me really some gold mine of information. And when you do your weekly newsletter, so you actually start sending those out and interacting with people, you can do like polls. I use Kit, and you can do like polls just to get some basic feedback, but also tag your links. So if somebody's clicking on something in your email, that tells you that they're interested in that, right? So that's giving you a lot of gold information there. So it takes some time. There's no doubt about it. So you're gathering that information. But I also think, and this might be the little bit controversial part of it, I also think sometimes you just got to put the offer out in the marketplace and get the feedback that way. Because a lot of times if you start asking your audience, well, what do you want? They don't know. They literally don't know how you can help them. But if you put an offer out into the marketplace and then just make some adjustments there, you're gonna get some really good feedback. I've launched, try to think, 3 new memberships in the past 2 years, and I just had to kinda just put it out there, and I definitely made adjustments. Every 3 to 6 months, I was, like, fine-tuning it, I was taking things out, I was adding things to it, but I never would have known what to do had I not just gone ahead and launched it into the marketplace.
Yeah. And with that being said, when you launched it, are you using some of the things that people are saying? Because I think you nailed it. They don't know what they want. They don't even know what they need, but they know what their problems are. They know what their symptoms are. And so you're using some of that language to help you sell, right? Because I think that can be a gap that people find is they're selling the jargon, they're selling the thing that is like their expertise, and they're not really understanding how to translate it into a solution or a transformation that people are actually looking for. And so I think that's where it starts to play into each other, where you can gather some of that language and gather what people are saying, what they're struggling with, and just in a very simple way, put that on your marketing material, put that on your sales page. And then you're saying like the offer itself, the things within it, the program, the digital product, the membership, those things can be tweaked as you fine tune a little bit more and more. So not getting stuck in perfection on either side of the equation.
Absolutely. And all of us are going to struggle with how to kind of structure an offer. We're going to second guess ourselves. Honestly, the Fortune 10 companies out there struggle with this. It is hard, right, to get something right. But once you put out in the marketplace and then you really start getting feedback on, especially your customers who actually purchase it, they're going to tell you what they want. You're not going to have any problems getting feedback from them.
Yeah. So if somebody does that, if they launch a digital product and they are just having crickets, where do you recommend the first place they start to really enhance that? Do you look at the messaging? Do you look at, because I know there can be so many different variables that could be going air quotes wrong. I know that one of my clients, for example, she had a great offer and she had an audience, but they really weren't connected. And so it was easy to say, oh, the offer must suck or the audience doesn't want this, when it's really just a matter of, because it wasn't aligned, anything she was putting out in her content about that offer wasn't even making it past her current audience because they weren't engaging with it. And so there was just all these little things. But what have you found to be, if somebody is just like, okay, I'm going to take this offer to market and they're not really seeing any conversion, where's the first place to start making those tweaks?
So what I would do if I was in that shoes, and I certainly have been there in the past, is I would just get on the phone with people and have these Zoom conversations with them and just talk with them about really truly what are their, and it's really just talking about their pain points, where are they struggling and
Mhm.
where they need help. And that's going to kind of direct you in terms of where to go, what to put on the sales page, how to talk to them. It could be, and I don't know the specific situation that you're talking about, but it could be you might need to create some content to address their objections. And a lot of
Mm.
times when you're launching a new offer like that, you have to prime your audience. And I like to do that with my podcast, but there's other ways you can do that. You can do that in your like newsletter content, your blog content, your YouTube content, but your social media content is another place to do that. But it is very difficult just to throw an offer out there with a sales page when you haven't done anything to get your audience ready for it. What I think is one of the best ways to launch an offer that's priced really anything like $200 or more is a live webinar. I think that builds the trust so very quickly, and you get the opportunity to interact with people right there on the webinar, so you do get a lot of feedback there too.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So we've kind of addressed some of those entry points. I know this is even more basic than the customer flywheel and all of that kind of stuff. So I want to go more into the flywheel and some of those pieces that people might be missing when they're only focused on the sales funnel and some of that nurturing. And so will you take us back through one of those pieces so we can dive a little bit deeper? I'm skipping right ahead all the way into referrals, but somewhere in the middle, what was that R right before
Yeah, it's
referrals?
the retain part, and to
Okay.
me, that's one of the most important parts of this growth flywheel that we're talking about, because in that retain, that's where you're getting those repeat customers. And one of the best ways to do that is to have a membership type model, right? So you're getting that revenue coming in every month, but there's a lot of challenges with membership models, right? They're harder to sell, in my opinion. I've been there. I know I have 4 of them that I market and manage. And you also have to consider the churn. So you're almost like marketing it almost every single month, unless you have people on annual plans, which is generally what I recommend, is try to get people on the annual plans. But when they're on a monthly plan, every single month, they're kind of thinking about, is this worth it, right? Am I getting my money's worth out of it? So you have to continually making sure that you are providing value. There's other ways that you can get that repeat sales, right? You can do a launch for one of your offers that might have like a payment plan in it, or you could send people to on a regular basis to maybe like a Shopify store that you have with digital products. So you can send your current audience to that. I mean, there's other ways to get the kind of that recurring revenue in your business from your current customer base. But that's kind of the holy grail, right? That retain part of the growth flywheel.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Good examples of just different ways to do that. I know I'm always really intrigued as a consumer, as somebody who's on other people's lists, just to kind of pick apart and see how they're doing this. And so that can even happen with having a variety of different offers and you have a different focus every single month and you're maybe putting a little bit more marketing attention behind that potential thing.
Mm.
Even if it's not a full blown launch, it's just, hey, let's make sure that we're mentioning this multiple times this month on the newsletter. And so that's kind of the focus on the behind the scenes for us. And it's the thing that we're going to be talking to the audience more about. So yeah, that makes a ton of sense. On average, like what have you seen? I know you've mentioned memberships, you've mentioned some of these other things. What are some of the best ways to grow and have predictable revenue when you're selling these digital products within the retain phase? Like yes, maybe it's memberships, but what should you really be focusing your energy on? Because I know when you're like doing one-on-one coaching, you have a lot. You have to do marketing, you have to do content creation, and then you have to do delivery where you have the product already essentially done. What is kind of the best way for you to be spending your time to ensure that the efforts are actually multiplying and you are retaining people and you are building that recurring revenue stream?
So, a couple of things, and I want to make sure I understand your question here. And I'll kind of walk you through the membership models that I'm using right now that are working like very well with me. I'll use my newsletter Profit Club as an example. So in that particular membership, every single month, I'm doing a live workshop there. So that is something that we market, right? People can join the membership, they can get it for free if they're in there, or they can actually pay for it separately if they want. So I have links where they can go do that. Once those workshops are done, I will always also put them up on our Shopify store so we can promote them there too. But as you kind of mentioned, it is really having multiple ways for people to buy from you and just different entry points. So
Mm,
you can market like a free gift, right? And in that free gift, you have this like tripwire funnel. And in this tripwire funnel, maybe you are also promoting one of your memberships where you can get that recurring revenue in addition to that tripwire type revenue that you're getting into there. What I really try to focus on, and it's a kind of a major focus for us in our business, is that lifetime customer value. So I want people in my world, there's definitely multiple ways that I can help them. So we have the memberships. They can purchase the one-off workshops. We have a Shopify store full of digital products. I also do coaching and one-on-one type coaching. So there's just different ways that people can buy from us, depending on where they
yeah,
are in their business journey.
cool. And I guess that you answered that beautifully because I think I kind of stacked two questions in one. But I'm curious a little bit about how because you mentioned churn rate with memberships. And I know sometimes it's tricky because you are remarketing to those people. You have to keep the value there. But something else that you and I kind of talked about before the call is utilizing AI for student success. Because if people are getting wins, you're not necessarily having to re promote because they're feeding their own, like their success is feeding their own desire to stay there. They're having that win. So, can you talk us through how you're utilizing that in your offers in your business with leveraging AI so that they are having that success?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that we have done here. One of the things we did in the newsletter Profit Club was set up these onboarding type bots. So the challenge that I had in that particular membership is that we have people coming into it who might have 70,000 people on their email list. And then we have people coming into it that are just starting out. So I really wanted to make sure that I was pointing them to the best resources so they could get the most out of it. So it basically is an onboarding bot. It asks them questions, and based on their answers, it points them exactly to the resources where they can get started right away just to get that quick win as they're coming in there. The other thing that I've done is set up an AI clone. So I took all of the transcripts from all of the workshops that we have done in the newsletter Profit Club and trained this clone. And I've actually had people go through and ask this AI clone questions. And somebody contacted me just the other day and said, Destiny, it really felt like you were sitting like literally next to me answering my questions. So that was kind of a really good win that I loved having there. The other challenge that people have with newsletters, not surprisingly, is they have trouble being consistent with them, right? They want to be consistent, but life just gets in the way. So we set up these basically accountability bots where they can opt in via text, so SMS text, to basically get a little nudge. It contacts them, say, have you sent out your weekly newsletter? If you have not, or if you need help, click here and I will help you get this done today. And it's a custom GPT that we have inside the membership to help them write their newsletter. So that's one of the things that we have set up there. I'm sure I'm missing some things. Oh, okay. I know the other thing I was going to tell you in one of my other membership, my Creators MBA Lab, we help them put together their growth flywheel. It's a personalized plan that I actually go through and analyze their business and do a video for them and say, here's exactly where you need to focus based on kind of where you are in your business journey. So they fill out a form. It's a Google form. That Google form goes to a Google Sheet. The Google Sheet it's an AI assistant, so it sends that information to my backend OpenAI, and based on what I've trained it on, it'll analyze all the information and send me a summary. It doesn't send the client a summary, it sends me a summary. I will look at it. I will go in, analyze their website, maybe social media or whatever. Sometimes I even sign up for their lead magnet to kind of understand what's going on there. I'll do a video and send it back to them. So those are some of the things that we've set up.
That is amazing. I love it. I love seeing different ways that people are implementing this. And I can totally see how it would enhance just the customer experience, the student experience, and having that replicatable like AI version of yourself can be super valuable. Can you give us some insight into the platform you use, how you've done that and replicated your brain for your membership for your students?
Yeah, so there's for the AI clone in particular, just so you know, there's tons of, platforms out there that do this, but I actually purchased something off of that Sumo a few months ago. I don't know if it's still on there, but it's called LouiseBot, and that's what I used for the AI clone. And it's also what I used for those onboarding bots. So they have a really
Mm.
kind of neat system where you can map that out using, if they answer this way, send them here. If they answer this way, send them here. So that's the system that I use for that specific application.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, and when you have your students that are coming into these programs, are these things that they're actually finding for themselves too? Because people are coming in for you have these different offers, different things. Are you incorporating even more tools for them to be able to use and build out for themselves as well? 'Cause I think that's one thing is them seeing it work for as the consumer, but even as the creator, is that something that you've considered in being able to add to your offer suite too, or just teaching them how to leverage AI even more for their own businesses as they're selling?
Yeah, so in the Creators MBA Lab, that's something that we put a major focus on. Actually, somebody emailed me this week and said, I want to join your AI membership. And I was thinking, my AI membership? Oh, she's talking about the Creators MBA Lab. Because we have a lot of workshops in there that are related to AI. Like in August, we have a workshop that's creating your AI dream team. It's kind of your back office team. So we're going to walk people through how to do that. I wouldn't say the whole membership, certainly not an AI membership. We do focus on that growth flywheel, but we do have a lot of AI elements in there.
Cool. Yeah. It's at the forefront of so many people's minds how they can leverage that, save more time. And even hearing your ideas, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just thought of 3 more ways that I could be using AI in my own business and to help me streamline some things. And I know you kind of help people shift from this. I was just on the website again, like 90% forward facing, client facing into a little bit more passive because they're able to sell those digital offers. And with that typically comes the need for more of those systems so it can just happen. There's the funnels, and I would consider this even a piece of the flywheel, and so that you're able to maintain the whole ecosystem. So I want to talk a little bit more about the referral. So obviously you need to have great retention. You need to have these need to be like your raving fans in order for them to be great referrals. What are some other ways that you facilitate and encourage the referrals to happen? Because I know we all have the best of intentions, but people get distracted. They don't necessarily think, you know what I should do today in my 5 minutes of spare time? I'm going to go and refer
Yeah.
this program or this coach.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get referrals because people are just busy. It's not that they don't love you, because they do. It's because they just get busy. So generally what I do, or where I have been able to get my best referrals, is when I'm either doing like my one-on-one VIP coaching, like on Wednesdays, I do boxer coaching for anybody who is signed up for that upsell. And when they respond back to me, oh, this just happened, or I watched your workshop and I did this, or basically any type of win that they contact me about, that's when I send, oh, I love that you had that win. Can you just copy and paste this into my link here? And I use Social Juice to collect those testimonials. So it's super easy. I just send them the link. They go copy, paste, put it in there. It's a sign. They already do the signed testimonial consent for me, so I don't have to gather that. So it makes it super easy, both for them and for me. And that's how I've gotten tons of referrals there.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. It's just helpful to think that through ahead of time. So even just saying, stack it with something that's already happening. If people are already giving you the feedback, if they're telling you how happy they are with the outcome, that right there is the ideal time to just say, hey, let's just capture this. Let's put this out there so that more people can find it. And yeah, that's brilliant. And then having the technology again to support the process, just being a little bit more automated, always genius.
Yeah.
So obviously you have a program teaching people how to leverage the power of the newsletter. Can you talk us through you even said earlier, like that's where you make most of your sales. What are people doing wrong when it comes to newsletters, emails outside of just not sending them? Consistency is a problem. But what have you found to be really effective in using the newsletter to actually be able to generate those sales?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit of a story here. So a few years ago, I was really struggling with my newsletter. Like I was doing everything that I was told, which was sending out my pillar content. So for me, that was my podcast content. So sending out my pillar content on a weekly basis to nurture my audience. And I was told that if I did that on a regular basis, when I was ready to launch, they would be ready to buy. Well, it just wasn't working. Because if you think about human behavior, when they know that email's coming, they know it's about your latest podcast, they're just gonna ignore it and go listen to your latest podcast on their podcast player when they're at walking their dog or at the gym or whatever. So I kind of took a step back. I put my marketing professor hat on and I said, there's got to be a better way. And I went in and did a 6-month research study, really kind of going outside of our creator digital product coaching niche and looked at these newsletter businesses out there. So like the hustles and the morning brews and the 1440s and really kind of studied what they were doing. And I learned a ton through that process. And I started taking some of the things I was learning and kind of taking it back and implementing it in my particular newsletter. And how I knew I was like getting things right, I had some people who were starting to email me back and say, your newsletter is gold. I have made you a separate kind of Gmail folder in my Gmail account with your name on it, and I'm saving them and I go back and review them. They're basically so good. I was like, okay, now I'm on to something. This is working. And so I kind of just developed my system from that. But basically, it's a system of how you structure your newsletter, but also how you monetize it. And that's something I think a lot of us in this creator niche, we don't necessarily think of. They think of the emails that you send out for launch, but you can do a lot just to monetize a newsletter.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and especially if you have anything whatsoever to sell, how do you add variety to that though, to where it's not just sell, sell, sell? Like how do you kind of approach the cycle within your newsletter so that it is value driven? And then I know I can already hear the question some people might have. How do you provide that gold without watering down or pulling back from what you're doing in your paid offers? What makes it super valuable to your readers that's not just the soft fluff that's essentially just sales content?
Yeah. So I structure my newsletters in what I call the mini magazine. And kind of take you back to when, or take me back. I'll date myself a little bit. When I was in high school and like the latest Cosmo or the Cosmopolitan was coming in, I'd run out to the mailbox to get it. I'd open it up. I knew the sections that they were going to have in there. And I was super excited to read them. So basically, what I have done in my newsletters, I have set up these to be like a mini magazine, like with these different sections. As an example, in my Creators MBA newsletter, I have a section in there called Bookmark Worthy. And it's like my favorite section in there. It's like the really, really juicy section. If people open it up just for that section, they're going to be like, this was worth opening up. So I have these different sections in the newsletter. So I might have an event section. Obviously, I still have my podcast section because I want to highlight that. I might have the bookmark worthy. I might have a quick tips section. And in those various sections, I might be highlighting something in particular. So I generally like to do what I call this teach and pitch method. So like a story or some really teaching type content there, and then basically direct them to their next step, their call to action. So I'm trying to think of an example here, but if I was promoting one of my workshops, I might go into a little bit more detail about why this is important, how I've implemented it in my business, maybe even give them a little bit behind the scenes, and then say something like, well, if you want to build your AI dream team, you can join me in this workshop. We're doing it live. I'm going to be there to answer your questions, or you can get it for free inside of the membership if you join the membership. So that's generally how I like to structure my newsletters.
Cool. Yeah. Makes sense. It reminds me a little bit of, we used to live in Nashville and we'd go to the Grand Ole Opry a lot. And there was something so brilliant about that. And my husband has encouraged me just to start a podcast where it's more that style, where it's like all these different segments instead of just a full interview, because you're giving a little piece. There's something always to look forward to, different taste of a bunch of different things. And so it just keeps people engaged. It keeps them intrigued. And then, like to your point, where if it's just, here's the podcast episode, people glaze over that. If you leave something in there that they want to see what's new this week and give them a reason to actually open, then you're going to have a lot more success, which in my experience, even getting them to open the email sometimes is your biggest hurdle. So if you condition them well and you provide that really strong value in the email, then you're already eliminating half of the battle with getting them even to look at what you're selling this week or check out your different offers. So that makes perfect sense. It's a smart approach to the transition that you made with your newsletter.
Yeah, but you have to realize that people are just going to be interested in different things. Some of them might be interested in your podcast topic for the week. Some of them might be, okay, I've already mastered that, but I'm really interested in building this AI dream team. So it kind of just gives them a variety of ways to kind of pick from.
Yeah, and it seems like it'd be a good way to test some of your sales collateral as well. Like, let's just see kind of like what landed, and all right, we emailed about this, we tried this approach, it didn't really click, we didn't really see a lot of conversion, let's try a different approach. Same offer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that even goes back to our earlier conversation. We're not throwing the whole thing away. We're just transitioning a little bit of the messaging and the delivery so that people find that it matches up with what they actually want. So, you're not changing the whole coaching offer. You're not changing your whole method. You're not going to starting point. So it's just all of this, just little micro tweaking, and it's more data collection. Your podcast, you mentioned, is kind of the thing in your flywheel that nurtures people that you keep coming back to. How do you match up and pair what's going on in the podcast with the newsletter? Do you do that pretty intentionally and plan that ahead of time?
I would like to say that I'm a lot more strategic about it than what I am. I would say this, like the workshops that I have in my membership, I try to keep them like up to date. Where do people need help? What am I doing that I know that they're going to be interested in? Because a lot of times, if it's something that I felt a pain point about, a lot of them do also. So I think for the most part, yes. Does it always match up perfectly? Not necessarily, but really the content on my podcast and also kind of what I'm promoting is going to be about the kind of the latest and greatest, what people are interested in right now. Just because I've been doing this for a while and I really, really understand my audience. But it took me a while to get here.
Yeah. Well, and I want to speak to that too, because I know somebody listening might feel like, oh my gosh, there's all these things I need to do for this to be successful. And you have a lot of stuff out there on social media about, oh, you can just make so much money selling digital products. And it's so simple. Just like any business, it requires all of these pieces. You're not going to be able to do it overnight or all at once. And that's why I wanted to break down, where is the first place for people to start? How do we make this really, really simple from the get-go? And then know that all of these pieces will come as you go and as you grow. Because you're not jumping into a 15,000 subscriber email list where you have to figure it out or else. You're evolving and the process just happens very organically. But it's just having that intention and understanding you're not just creating a product to sell. You're creating a whole entire system, a whole entire experience for somebody to go through. And you, as the creator of that experience, need to be really intentional with it and not just hope for the best. So that's what I love about what you've got.
Yeah, it does take a while. And I do want to emphasize that I certainly didn't get here overnight.
Yeah. Well, any business is going to require a lot of that grit and a lot of those just for different stages of building. And you're not doing it wrong if it's not happening overnight. Hopefully people have listened to enough episodes to know that is typical and that's just part of the journey. Destini, I've loved hearing your approach. I've loved hearing just all the different businesses that you've been able to apply these systems to and have success again and again and again. I know that there's probably been a lot of hard lessons along the way, a lot of businesses that didn't work out, but it's always fun to hear from somebody who's at a point where things are running and grooving and working well. Where can people go if they want to learn more about everything that we've talked about today?
Yeah, so definitely my Creators MBA podcast. I know you listen to podcasts, so that's a great way to kind of jump in and just learn a little bit more. If you want to just go to my website, it's destinycopp.com. If you want to monetize your newsletter, if you're like, you know what, that really spoke to me, you can go to destinycopp.com/calculator. And I have a newsletter profit calculator there that will walk you through how much money you can make off of your newsletter.
Amazing. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared today. It's been so fun chatting with you.
Thanks so much for having me.